Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephen. Thank y'all so much for taking time to be on with us. Here we are again, talking about the gas tax. We appreciate your persistence and your patience with us. We're here today because we're not giving up on this. We're not giving up on West Virginians being able to get relief from these high gas prices. So today we've come back to you with some new information. As we have said in the past, I think the past 2 times we've done this, we are flexible as to how that relief is provided, but we are not flexible on providing that relief. That needs to be done. It needs to be done as soon as possible. So today we want to talk with you about 2 options. And I'm not going to say much. I'm just introducing the topic, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues. So those 2 options, just very briefly, are 1, pausing the state gas tax, which we've talked about at length. Some concerns were raised about doing that. Folks said, well, that might not be possible due to our bond covenants. Not so. We've done the research, we've read the bond covenants. We've even talked to legislative leadership in Maryland who has very similar, if not the same, bond covenants. It is not only allowed, it is expressly permitted in the bond covenants that we hold, and Senator Lindsay's going to talk about that. The other option that we want to talk with you about today is providing a rebate to West Virginia citizens who own vehicles within the state of West Virginia, and Minority Leader Skaff will go into some detail about that. So that's why we're here. West Virginians need relief at the pump. We can provide it. It's not a question of can we can. It's a question of do we have the will. We're here to provide 2 clean and clear methods to doing so. And of course, we'll take questions at the end, and I see several folks have indicated that they do have them. So up first, Senator Lindsay, we take it from here.
Sure. Thank you, Senator Baldwin. So as far as the opposition to the suspension or gas tax or the holiday, the most reasonable argument, although it's not an argument, but the most reasonable argument proffered by folks in opposition is the fact that, well, we have a road bond, and we can't just suspend the tax for a month because we have the road bond, and allegedly roads will suffer. And so in response to that opposition, we Democrats, we in the Senate caucus, we in the House caucus decided to do a little homework. Right now, there are 3 states that have suspended their gas tax for their people, and that's Georgia, Connecticut, and Maryland. Maryland is our neighbor, and so we reached out to figure out we reached out to them to figure out how they navigated this particular issue. It shouldn't surprise anyone on this call that they too have road bonds. West Virginia is not the only state that seeks to take care of the roads in that way and fashion. And in researching what Maryland has, the road bond covenant that Maryland has and the road bond covenant that we have in West Virginia are substantially similar. Not identical, substantially similar. And we reached out to the leadership, the Democratic leadership who do lead and have the majority in the Maryland State Senate House. We reached out to their finance chairman and their attorney and found that we could do it here in West Virginia, that they encountered the same types of issues, but they were able to get it done. Their covenant is similar to ours, and we should be able to get it done. And in fact, we have an advantage that they don't have. According to our code, we have what's called a debt service fund that's in place to fund what the state does whenever taxes dip off or come off unexpectedly. So what we would suggest is we would take the $35 million that we anticipate a month's worth of the state gas tax would cost and put it in the debt service fund, and thereby take care of our roads, take care of our expectations, take care of our bond. And so that's the first thing. As far as that argument as to whether or not this can be done in West Virginia, it can be done. And really, that's the only reasonable argument that's been proffered by anybody in opposition to bringing relief to West Virginians. But as Senator Baldwin stated, and in fact, let me take a step back. we have, because of that, created legislation, written up legislation that we would like to take up immediately, whether it be the governor takes it up himself, or if he believes the session should be called, that we should be able to take up immediately and pass, because as mentioned in previous press conferences, what we're talking about is a few hours of work that can make a huge difference in the lives of West Virginians when we're at $4 a gallon as we speak here in West Virginia. But let's assume for a moment, because neither Senator Baldwin, myself, Delegate Fluharty, or Delegate Skaff are the governor, nor do we have power in the legislature. We don't make those decisions. So if for some reason the leadership says, you know what, we still don't buy that. Well, you know what, let's do a rebate. Let's do a gas rebate. Anyone who files a tax form will get some type of rebate similar to a stimulus check for the costs that are expected to be expended on gas for a month. And our tax department keeps those figures. So the goal is to bring relief to West Virginians. The only party that's willing to work towards that goal is the Democrat Party right now. We don't care who takes credit for it, but it needs to get done, and it needs to get done immediately. So with that, I will pass it off to either Delegate Skaff, Leader Skaff.
Thank you, Senator, and thanks for everybody being here. And yeah, the nail on the head is everyone I talked to as recently as yesterday and even this morning. What are you guys doing? Are you going to get anything done? Can you give us some sort of relief? These gas prices, all our states, they hear about it. There's actually 22 states still considering doing something as we speak, and some have enacted it. It's just timing of when they do it. But like the Senator Baldwin and Lindsay said, we're open to doing whatever. Let's just come together. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. The easiest way would be to relieve the 35-cent tax, 35.7-cent tax. Because why? Because that ensures that the people who are actually feeling the brunt of this, who are buying gas, are getting the credit. Okay. Now, the other alternative that we just mentioned that some states are looking at as well is we issue a rebate check immediately. And we're proposing to do a $100 rebate check, $100 rebate check. And you give that to all registered vehicle owners in the state. And the last data I had on that was a couple years ago. It comes out to 571,447 cars. That includes taxi cabs. That includes private and personal. 571,000. That $100 would cost us around $57 million to do. Okay, that's an option. Now, that's an option. Given the easiest way to do would just be a tax holiday across the board, because you have people who have registered cars that might be, that don't drive those cars as much as others, and that's okay. But we want to give relief to the people at the gas pump. And that's why we originally came out, and we continue to stand by the 35.7 cents tax holiday is the way to go. But hey, we haven't heard any movement from them. They won't even talk to us. They don't want us to come in the special session and talk about this issue, even though all our other states are talking. Democrats and Republicans are putting their party affiliations aside and trying to figure some sort of relief out. Say, hey, you don't like our first option? Here's another option. What about this idea? We have a specific amount, what it's going to cost. It goes right back into the people's pockets who have cars. And let me give you an example of what that means for all you math majors out there, without getting too technical. If you took $100 and divided it by 35.7 cents, that equates to 280 gallons. 280 gallons of gas relief that 35.7 cents would equate to. Average car is about 18 gallons. So what's that mean? You can go to the pump 16 more times and you would be the same thing as relieving that 35.7 cents gas holiday that we originally planned. That would be what it would equate to. That's a lot of relief. Average car of 18 gallons is about $6.30 savings per fill up. You multiply that by how many times? $100 relief, that goes a long ways. So either version provides instant relief to the taxpayers of West Virginia. They told us to quantify it. They told us to get numbers, told us to check on the bond issue. We continue to do our research and homework. Let's just do something. So that's just another option. And other states are considering it. I know it's an option, and we just need to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. And with that, I'd like to turn over to my colleague, Delegate Fluharty.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I don't have a whole lot more to add than what my colleagues have already stated. First, I'd like to thank my colleagues in the Democratic Party for not giving up on this fight. You know, it's something that the taxpayers and citizens of West Virginia have reached out to us and say, don't give up, keep plugging away. You know, something that hasn't been brought up that I think is important for those on this call is that we're still operating under a state of emergency. Now, many would ask why, and I would as well. The whole point of a state of emergency for the governor is for him to protect the public good. And I would argue that giving instant relief to people at the gas pump under the current crisis we're under is protecting the public good. And if he's unwilling to do that, which we know that he can, if he's unwilling to do that, the Democrats are stepping up and trying to make it happen for the people of West Virginia. So, you know, the governor, the ball's in his court. He has the ability under the state of emergency powers to make this happen and suspend the gas tax. If he's unwilling to do that, we're going to have to step up and try to get it done through the power that we have through the legislature, and hopefully we can get that done soon. And today I will note that in Maryland, where they were able to get it done, and Senator Lindsay did a great job of breaking it down on how we can do that. They woke up this morning with gas prices 30 cents lower than West Virginians are waking up to. And we can take what we can do with our power and the governor can do. We can make that happen for West Virginians. Unfortunately, leadership has chosen not to do that. So that's why we're here today. That's why we're, again, going on this subject and going and getting through the layers here to get to the bottom of it and explain to everybody in West Virginians why it needs to happen and who's holding it up. So I look forward to the questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. So we also have Delegate Kayla Young on with us via audio. Delegate Young, would you like to chime in as well?
Sure. Thank you, Senator. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I can't say much that hasn't been said, but I have seen some posts from some journalists that have said, why are we still having press conferences? Why are we still talking about this? And the answer to that is because we haven't changed anything, and we're not going to stop until we do with our constituents. I was at a high school this morning talking to high school seniors that drive, and they all love this idea. They think, you know, saving on gas would be instantly helpful for them to get to their after school jobs and their weekend jobs. And it is just vital that we get this done and we lower the gas tax. And really the point of this press conference is to say, we're not stopping on this, we're still going. And also, like Delegate Skaff said, we're open to alternative suggestions. So we think 35.7-cent tax reduction immediately at the pump would be the best solution, but we're open to a rebate check to drivers, or maybe open to a tax credit, even though that wouldn't provide any relief right now, but we think people need relief now. But we're open to having this conversation, and so that's really the message that we're trying to convey today. So that's all I've got, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. So we have 5 folks who have raised questions in the chat so far, so we'll go through those, and then if anyone else has any additional questions, we'll go to those. And to my colleagues, last time I hogged the questions, and I'm not going to do that this time. My apologies. I'm just going to take us through who asked questions and leave that open to whoever would like to answer them. So first up was Stephen Adams, I believe.
Yeah, Steve Adams, Ogden Newspapers here. I believe the governor said on the briefing yesterday that if he could get a proposal, he would consider that. But of course, for special session, as everyone I think on this call knows, if it's not on the special session call whenever that eventually comes out, it's not something that could be considered. So what are we doing as far as communications with legislative Republican leadership and the governor's office about trying to get this on a special session agenda for the end of April? Thank you.
Who wants to take that first?
I'll take that. Thank you for the question, Stephen. We have no problems with sharing the legislation that I referred to regarding the suspension of the gas tax with Republican leadership and the governor. If you remember, we reached out to the governor close to 3 weeks ago and said, hey, this is something we need to look into. Can you help us? So, I mean, I think we've made the effort in that respect, and we'll continue to make the effort. It won't just be that piece of legislation that regarding the suspension of the gas tax, but we're also working on legislation regarding the rebate that's been referred to. Here's the thing. And again, Delegate Staff said it, something just has to get done. I mean, the state will have by the end of the fiscal year close to $1 billion of surplus, $1 billion, and people are hurting now. And it amazes me that for whatever reason, the leadership is so inflexible in trying to address this issue. I think that if you asked Republicans individually behind closed doors, they'd probably say, yeah, this is a great idea. I don't know if they're allowed to say that publicly because they hear it. I'm sure they hear it from their constituents as well. And, however it's done through a suspension of a gas tax or a rebate or a tax credit, the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, we are the only people talking about it right now. And we hope and welcome anyone to help us in this regard.
Yeah, and I know the governor mentioned a couple of times that we haven't reached out to him. I mean, we hand walked the letter down to him. We asked for a meeting. We asked for call a special session. We asked bring people together of party leadership, and whoever had ideas. We just want to talk about it. Let's have a conference tomorrow. Let's have a meeting tomorrow in his office. I'll text message the chief of staff here after this call and say, hey, can we set something up again? But I've asked him to have a meeting. We don't need to do this. We can all come together. It doesn't have to be partisan. We just want to do something. And, and lastly is end of April, I think is when our special session is. People are hurting right now, like the senator said. We called 3 weeks ago to have something come in. We could do this in a day. We did it for Nucor in a day and a half on one of the largest deals in West Virginia history. I think we could figure this out in a day.
Okay, the next question was from Randy with West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Yes, I was the one that Mark Curtis and I asked the governor yesterday about this point, and I asked him if he has gotten a request for a special session. And he said, yes, I got a letter, but nobody said anything to me. So you've said different there. So I guess I want to know about the next step procedure. If you send him a letter saying we're requesting a special session on this gas tax holiday, does that constitute an obligation to him to hold it, or is it still up to him? And my second part of that question is, if you want to hold this special session yourself, I understand you need 3/5 of the membership in both the House and Senate to do this yourself. And is there a chance that you can get that, or are you attempting to get that? I guess I want to know what the next steps are when it comes to physically what has to happen.
Thank you, Randy. Who would like to address that first?
I'd probably take that real quick. That's a great question. So first and foremost, the reason why we use the channels that we did originally is because, as I stated earlier, since we're operating under a state of emergency, the governor absolutely has the power to do something. That something is suspend the gas tax. He has chosen not to do that. Now, another question for the media to the governor might be, why are we still in a state of emergency? Virginia is not, Pennsylvania is not, Ohio is not, Maryland is not, but yet West Virginia is. So that's why we took that channel to begin with, because we are operating under state of emergency. In the governor's office, when he came out and blasted Democrats and said we were grandstanding, you notice he didn't cite any reason why he couldn't do it, other than he just said, I can't do that right now. I can't do that. The legislature has to. He couldn't tell you exactly why. He couldn't cite code or anything of that nature. He just said the power's on the legislature. So now that we have the governor's reaction, which is to do nothing, Democrats have taken upon ourselves to say, okay, we'll do it the legislative way. We can call ourselves back, and I can guarantee you every single Democrat would sign on to doing that. Yet we haven't heard from Republicans to say they would do the same. So I think now the question and the ball goes to the Republican leadership court. If their governor is not going to take steps forward as he can under emergency powers, will they do it legislatively? And will they do it before the special session next month? So to answer your question as to procedurally how that would occur, one, we believe the governor could do it on his own right now through his emergency powers. He has chosen not to. Two, we can do it legislatively. And as you said, we have to have enough signatures to do so. Democrats are willing to do that because we can get this done in one day. The question is, are Republicans willing to do the same?
The governor said yesterday that he's still in a state of emergency because he doesn't want to jeopardize any of the federal COVID funding.
Yes, I heard him say that. Then I would wonder, are these other states jeopardizing federal funding? No, they're not, and they wouldn't do so. The governor, he doesn't want to be forthright in this and how it operates. He simply loves having these press conferences. I'm glad you were able to attend virtually. The state is operating with open again, except for his press conferences. I wonder why that is. I wonder why we're still in the state of emergency. The governor has had control of the state for 2 years. And now anytime that an idea comes up that's not his, he seemingly doesn't have the power to act. And that's just nonsense.
While we're sitting here, just, I texted Brian Abraham, chief of staff, and asked, I said, it seems like there's some confusion about us wanting to meet with the governor. I said, please let us know at his schedule permitting. We'd love to sit down with any leadership or any elected officials you would like to talk about this issue. So there's your official notice again.
All right, thank you, delegates. It sounds like we're on to the next question, which was from Mark with WDVM.
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, the same sentiments being felt out here in the Eastern Panhandle, although I'm hearing a couple of different things. One, from business leaders who are losing gas business to Maryland. People are going to buy gas over in Virginia or Maryland because it's cheaper. So, and then the other thought was, why ask someone who's already living on a fixed income to wait for a rebate or file it with their tax when the state of Maryland's gotten it done up front? Can we not proceed with that and get it done? That's the folks from the Panhandle speaking.
Sure. And Mark, just in response, like I said, like we've all been saying, we believe the best way to do it is a suspension of the gas tax. We just brought the rebate up because we are trying to figure this out. And I think hopefully the message is getting across that we are willing to work with anyone. To your point about folks and businesses in the Eastern Panhandle, I've got an aunt that lives up there in Berkeley County, and she is as red and conservative as you can be. And she is saying, why can't we do this? She's saying the same thing you're saying. So, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and we need to act.
I may have heard from your aunt. There were a couple of people said you journalists need to hold them responsible.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. I think David Beard was up next.
Yeah, I'll kind of pile my three questions together at once. One, assuming you can't get an immediate special session calling yourselves in, do you have ability you can just hand the governor and say, please put this on the call? And would you do that? Second, if you do a rebate, would you exclude electric vehicle owners from that rebate since they're not paying a gas tax? And third, I wonder if Delegate Skaft could repeat those numbers about the cost of the rebate. I saw 571 something and 57 million, but I was distracted and didn't follow that. Thanks.
Sure. Well, the number is just, that's probably the high end of the number that I gave there because there's a lot of things with that. No, I don't think we should include electric vehicles. That's a whole different animal. We're talking about they would get the relief if they went to the gas pump, and they wouldn't get the 35.7 relief that we originally proposed. So, and this is just, listen, we'll do whatever we can to give people relief that the gas inflation affects. Okay. That number that I had was a few years old. It's the last one that was published. It was 571,447. 571,447 commercial and residential vehicles registered in our state. Now, I don't think all those, maybe they won't qualify. Maybe some don't exist. Maybe some are parked on the shelf. We'll figure that out, but that would be the high end. Everyone asked for what the number would be. That would be what the number would be, the high end. And I think the rebate, I think it needs to come to people as soon as possible in the form of a check and not wait till the end of the year because people need to utilize it now. People are suffering now. I agree. I think that's why the 35.7, cutting it right off the top, would have immediate impact tomorrow, or as soon as we passed it, it would happen immediately. But the rebate check, I would mail it out just like we did the surplus checks as soon as possible to everybody.
I would just say,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was say, can you
Or
just
David,
hand
I'm sorry.
Can you just hand the governor a bill and say, here it is?
Yes, sir. I mean, we can propose that, and we've drafted one bill, working at drafting another. But it's up to the governor to set the call if we're coming in via the governor's call. I would just say, in response to the question, the question illustrates why the latter method, the rebate method, again, which we're open to. We're open to suggestions because we just want to.
Stephen, you might have froze up there for a second. I know, but I think we're open to just talking about it. I think if we come together as elected officials, we can figure it out. That's all we're asking. And as far as can we present bills to them, we presented over 600 bills this past session, and not too many of them got considered, but a lot of them affected all average West Virginians. So yeah, we can present a bill to the governor all day long. It's just, will they take it up?
Guys, I just wanted to ask a clarification about the rebate. We might be getting too in the weeds because that might not be how we're going, but I was just wondering, so is this per vehicle or per owner? If I own 3 cars, do I get $300? And then you mentioned commercial vehicles. Would a company that owns, 100 trucks, does the company get a check for each truck? Thank you.
Yeah, other states are considering both of those suggestions. I think if you're talking about relief to the people, I mean, we shouldn't punish a company that has 10 cars and they're all being used just because they're owned by the same person. I don't think we should punish them. It's just giving relief to the people who are using, that are feeling the pressure at the pump. Some people might be, yeah, like you said, one owner that has 10 vehicles and a business, and they're driving all those with various drivers. They should get the relief too. Yes. If someone has, I have a couple of cars registered in my name. My wife uses one. I use one. Each car should get some relief. Yes.
The only thing I would add to Leader Skaft's comment is, Charles, that I believe Michigan and California that's the route they took. They took a route where it was, instead of a suspension of a gas tax, they decided to do rebates. So we would take a look at what they've done and how they've taken care of that particular issue. But the point is, just get it done. I don't know. It reminds me of what an old coach used to say. Don't tell me that you can't. Tell me how you can. And, I think, again, that we are the only ones talking about how to solve this problem to bring relief to the people of West Virginia.
Excuse me. I wanted to let you guys know that Senator Hannah Gefford has come on now, and I didn't know if you wanted to add something, Senator, to our discussion.
No, I agree with Richard and what he said.
Your hair looks good. Senator Gefford, your hair looks good. It looks like you got a haircut.
I cut it off. Got rid of it.
Truly.
Thank you. But that's not the point. The point is, yes, I think that I agree with what Richard said about how we should go about things.
I know Senator Baldwin was
He just popped back on.
okay. Yeah. Is there any other questions though, or raise your hand or chime in? I think we answered all the ones in the chat.
I apologize, folks. You see why broadband is my #1 issue besides the gas tax.
Is there any other questions? I was asking for Stephen, if people.
Did you get to Charles Young? He had raised the question, and we hadn't gotten to him
I
yet.
think
He asked his questions.
we did. Yep.
Well, I appreciate the time, everyone, and the questions. And if you guys need anything, reach out to us after the fact. But I think we've exhausted our time here for today.
All right. Thank you all.
And we'll get a recording out to everybody this afternoon. Thank you all so much for your time. Take care.
Thanks very much.